Hello and welcome to Solar Solace Farms, where everything good comes from the sun. Today I want to just put out there maybe a little bit shorter video. So today we have some artificial sun in here, giving us a little bit of heat, but without it, the real sun, we wouldn't have this. So besides cows and some sheep, I also have chickens, and I have a flock that I've been trying to select decent layers and some dual layer and dual purpose that still lay a fair amount of eggs. And these are the offspring. This is the 6th or 7th generation this year of chicks, and I'm glad that I got the eggs when I did, because I had some predation. To this day I couldn't tell you what it was, but I suspect it was avian, because they were just out in a area where they were free ranging. There was no electric netting around them. At night, it's the only time they had any protection from just whatever decided to come in. They were right next to a canal, but it has water in it all year long, so it wasn't being used as a corridor for coyotes. But I also wonder if some raccoons didn't get into them. But I had 3 roosters 1 week, and a week later I had 1 rooster, and a week later I have no roosters operating or functioning. So I'm glad that I collected these eggs when I did. But what I wanted to show you here is kind of size difference in literally 4 days. I had a couple of blue eggs that I wanted to try to hatch, and they came a few days, about 4 days after the rest. This little chick right here, and I'm going to pick it up and let you look at its legs, because it's got some feathers. Now you can see that for just a second. See the feathers on its leg right there. So it has some Moran in it. I'm thinking that my rooster that I most recently had was Moran, and that's also why it's got a little bit of reddish or dark in it. That's one of the 2 eggs that hatched, and let's see, here's the other that hatched 4 days after the rest, and he doesn't really, or this one has a little bit of feathers there. So it's cool because I have just all different varieties, and that's what I like about this mix that I've got here on the place, is that there's nothing expected. They don't all look exactly uniform, and I really like that. I've even got a little bit of what I'm guessing to be sex link. I'm pretty sure that this is going to be a rooster. He's got this little white dot on the back of his head. Not only that, but much larger. This is one of the ones that hatched 4 days earlier than the ones I just showed you. But you really have to be careful when you put them together, even 3 days apart on chicks. They just grow so fast that this one I was a little bit concerned about, and I still keep my eye on him, because he or she, I don't know, this chick basically just didn't have a lot of go. But some of them just get worse when you add them to the rest of the flock, and some of them come alive, and this one came alive, luckily. And I also had at least a couple others within this clutch. That's probably an old term, I don't know. My grandma used to call each time a hen would come off with chicks a clutch, so that's what I call it. That's really where I developed a love of being with animals, is when I was raised. I'd go to her house almost every day in the summertime between the ages of 3 and 5 when I went to preschool. But the reason I raise my own chickens is because that way I can also make my choice whether I'm gonna what direction I want to go with the flock, as well as if something gets sick, then I can say, well, I'm not going to exterminate the whole flock. That's silly. I'm going to keep those that are resistant to whatever killed the rest. If I only have a few left, as long as I got a rooster. And if I don't, I'll go outside. My sisters both have flocks of their own that are not related to these. They do some incubation as well in their flocks, so we kind of keep it in the family that way. But just the variety that we have here, like this one here was looking at me earlier, and it's got a black beak. You know, the legs are black with fade into some, and coming to some yellow on them. And this is a nice little chick here. And this little clutch has actually been very quiet. Not a lot of noise with them. So they're kind of cool that way. And then there's this one, which is pretty small, but as you can see, it's already starting to develop a comb. So I'm not wondering if this isn't going to be a rooster too. I just barely fed them, and because they were empty this morning pretty much. This one here, about the same as the last one we just looked at, but look at how there's feathers on the legs of that one. So this one's probably going to be a Moran. I did have some darker eggs. Let's look at some of these other ones. These ones are all cool. These ones that have all different kinds of, like this one's darker, that one's even darker. You got a little bit lighter there. This one in here, you know, it's just really neat what combinations you get out of them. Like this one has absolutely no feathers. It's got clean legs, yellower. So it's just neat to see what comes out of these eggs. I get kind of a kick out of seeing what I get each year. This one was just sitting on top of this thing. I already picked this one up, just standing right here, just staring up at me a second ago. You know, they kind of cock their head sideways and just put their one eye on you. Anyways, that one was kind of staring up, seeing what was going on. So anyways, I got 10 on this one. Not a very good success rate. Put 40 some odd in the incubator, so really not good. But I've got as many as 36 out of 40 some, and I've had much less as well. But I've got 2 incubators going right now. My room's completely dark. I kind of did that so that it would be easier to see those. I pull them out and put them in another, what I just call the hatching chamber. So I have just this base that I put another incubator top on when I want to pull the eggs out. These ones have 4 days left. Not all of them in here. I have to kind of keep good records. I'm really sad that this one wasn't developing when I looked at it today, because that's a really cool pattern. But here's an incubator I just bought this year, because I went to the local farm store to just kind of check on what stock they had this year, and the guy said that they sold 400 chickens in less than 40 minutes. So I'm like, all right, I have my own eggs and I have an overabundance of eggs, so I'll just spend $80 on an incubator. So here's my other one. I've had this one for a long time. As you can see, they both have egg turners in them. And I had a good friend whose wife works at a farm store. There was a egg turner on clearance, and he's called me up and asked if I wanted it. So that other incubator over there, I didn't buy it with an egg turner, but I got one nonetheless. So this one doesn't have any blue eggs that you can see in it. There's a couple there that I got and had to actually mark the date on them, so I know they're like 2 days behind the rest of most of these. This incubator actually has eggs at 3 different incubation times in it. Anyways, another thing I was going to show you, and you're going to kind of get a little bit of tour of a messy house. This is my basement. We just moved in here on the 14th of December this year, and of 2024. So we still have a lot of work we have to do here. But I just wanted to show you what I woke up to this morning. You know, we thought it was spring, and the wind was just ruthless and nonstop yesterday. I didn't say what day it is. Today's the 1st of April, but you're gonna get that in a second anyways. And this has really calmed down. But this morning we woke up after a good windstorm. We're still moving a few things over. I looked outside and spring said, April Fools, still winter. To be honest with you, this is probably our best snowstorm of the whole season, the whole season. Not exaggerating. Let me grab my other shoes and I'll just walk outside a little bit. Sorry about that. Anyways, to tell you a little bit of the story, of where I'm at in Scripture. And I'm just going to go ahead and tell you what scriptures I've been reading in lately, and whether you want to learn about them or not, you can pause it or fast forward or whatever. But I was reading in the book of Ether. Boy, my voice sure got deep into our gravel this morning. I was reading in a book called the Book of Ether today, and one of the things that stuck out, it's one of the things that we learn about, is that we all have weaknesses. And the reason that the Lord gives us weakness is so that we can overcome weaknesses in this life, because this is a probationary state for us to learn how to control our natural man or woman, our desires, and to put those off and to try to become more like the Savior. I know that I have weaknesses that I definitely struggle with, things that seem to beset me easily, that I am attracted to, that I shouldn't be, as in, that are natural man things, and we all struggle with those things. It's not unusual to have things that we struggle with and that we're weak in, but as long as we recognize what those are and try to make sure that we work on overcoming those on a daily basis, then we all can say we're human and we're trying, and we can support one another in those things. So this is the yard. It's pretty messy right now. My wife absolutely hates the fact I got all that wood piled up there. We had some old corrals on this lot that I had to clear out to build the house here. I'm gonna get rid of that camper right there, and I just took this old manger down that was right in this area. You can see right along there, took an old manger down, and you can't believe the amount of decent lumber that's in some of this old stuff. We had planks that were 18 feet long, that were easily 2 inches thick and probably about 11 to 12 inches wide. And they ended up going up and crossed one of my canals so that I can rotate my animals easier. I have places to cross that canal when I'm running my fence line, because I just have a fence on one side of the canal, but I graze on the opposite side of the canal up there, so I have to take and walk across that canal and stretch a real poly braid across that. So that should make it a bit easier. So I use those planks for that. It's always nice to be able to reuse stuff. And some of these things, you can see this pile, I don't know, right here. The old timers used to take them big planks, and they would cut them on an angle, and they would they'd butt them against each other with a V shape, and that was what the animals would put their head through. They had a few animals not smart enough to raise their heads up sometimes, which was a tragedy. But I'm going to try to use those and make Christmas trees, decorative Christmas trees. They'll be a one of a kind. I've also saved some of the other older lumber, like you can see that old just panel of planks right there. And each one of those will make a really good sign, which you can burn, use a wood burner and burn a name or a saying into them, and those make good. And I have a lot of those. I just haven't wanted to get rid of this, and so it's not the greatest sight. It's kind of ugly. And then here's some poles. So I took the poles off of this fence here, this part of this manger, some of the pine poles that are still in good enough shape, and I'm going to use them right along this fence, because I've got rid of this barbed wire. I'm going to get rid of this barbed wire. This fence did come all the way out to this corner, but I've taken it down to open this up. And I'm going to put those poles that you see on the ground, and I'm going to make a fence that looks like that there, right here, all the way back to the shed where I keep my fence charger. So it'll be kind of cool. Anyways, I'm at 14 minutes. I didn't realize it this far. You can see how I've got steam rising. When the sun comes out, it's not going to last long. My boy jumped up and went sledding for spring break. But I appreciate you coming along with me on this walk. There's the cows and sheep down there. I got to get out and feed them. They're just concentrated in this middle pasture, so I can let this south one and this north one grow. But Appreciate you coming along. This is Solar Solace Farms signing off.